what do you think are some of the most important retention concepts that you always try to drill into your students' minds when you're teaching them the butterfly guard?
I think one of the biggest retention, at least if you're a butterfly guard player, you have to get good at sitting back up again. Like whenever your partner puts your back on the ground, like you have to get good to sit back up. Even if they're on your side, you can still sit up and create like the appropriate frames, and then pummel the legs back in front or counterattack after. So that's something that I don't see that many people like take advantage of. There's a couple guys who do it, but I think that's the biggest one. If you're going to be a good butterfly guard player, is like sitting back up. There's a couple other ones too. You're keeping your knee line in check, like not letting the guy beat your knee line, especially if he's on a body lock and stuff like that. And it depends on the approach of the passer, but that's a good one to start with.
That's a great tip, man. What do you think are the most common mistakes you see people make when it comes to executing a butterfly sweep, like sweeping options from butterfly? Do you see any one like overarching mistake that people seem to kind of make as they're learning?
So I'll talk about like the basic sweep, like the one that everybody knows, like the underhook and the overhook, right? I'd say the two biggest things that I see done, like, I don't want to say wrong, because sometimes it'll still work, but the biggest things I could see focused on more is when you get the underhook and the overhook, you don't need to give the guy an underhook on you when you have that like overhook control. You can still kind of like keep your elbow like tight to yourself and get just the same amount of control without letting the guy get the underhook in your armpit. And then that's when you're going to get in trouble for getting like body locked, for getting the guy forcing the half guard or going to the knee cut. Like that's one of the biggest ones. And then as far as like the actual sweep goes, it's funny because I see like a lot of people say like, oh, you do the butterfly sweep, and everybody explains this detail well. And it's true sometimes where you don't pull the guy onto your back, you fall to your shoulder, right? Everybody kind of knows that detail, right? But I disagree. I think you pull the guy first, and then at the last second you change to the shoulder. The reason why is because if you don't get the weight of your partner forwards, if you don't get his heels off his butt, he's not going to go. Okay, even if you fall right to your shoulder. So it's almost like when you learn your like scissor sweep, one of the first things you learn is you like pull the guy on top of you, right? You got to do the same thing in butterfly, but you got to change that angle at the last second. And I think that's a detail that I think some people might miss,
Yeah, no, I can totally picture what you're saying too. And in fact, that's an aspect of butterfly guard that I've struggled with too as well. Is that I was often as I was developing mine, I would not rock the guy back and get him basically. He committed his weight on top of me to where I can manipulate. I'm getting the kazushi, as they say, Yeah. So that's a really great tip, man. What do you think are as far as attacking for submissions from butterfly guard? What are some of your most important like go-to attacks that you found to be the most effective during your development?
I feel like whenever the guy is not giving one thing, he's giving something else most of the time, or most of the time you can lead him to give you something else. And so if he's not giving like the sweep, chances are like his head's like too low and you can like snap his head down for the guillotine. Or if he's harder to sweep because he's so he's posting so much with his like arms, you can go to the inverted arm bar or so those two I think are ones that like help me a lot, even in competition. And there's a couple other ones that I like too. There's some good triangles from there and some good omoplatas from there that I like to do a lot if I get a little bit behind or if the guy's like pressuring forwards too much.
That's great. That's really good, man. So something else about butterfly guard that I always appreciate, and it took me a while to really sort of identify this fact, but I don't know if this is something you preach to your students a lot, is the importance of recognizing butterfly guard as a transitionary position as well. I mean, it's almost like this central hub where you have so many directions that you can go positionally, not just for sweeps and submissions. Is that something you try to drill into your students a lot as well, is making sure they understand sort of the mental map of where the butterfly guard can take you?
Definitely. I think one of the main ones that obviously you can get to is the single leg X and the X guard position. Then obviously you have all your foot locks from there too, right? Um, Nowadays I play with the saddle a little bit too from what people call that position, all different stuff, but
Yeah, it's like
honey
5
hole,
different
right?
names.
Whatever it
Yeah.
is. But so that's also like readily available from there too. And you have the ability too to wrestle from that position like really well, so there's a even from like your butt. So there's a lot of ways to connect different things that might not exactly be butterfly guard, but there's a lot of other options there for sure.